And hello, movie lovers. So today I'm going to be talking about the little bit of movie news that happened over last week. So if this is a little bit of old news, don't worry about it. I'm going to focus on some other things still too, like for instance with The Witcher, Henry Cavill not returning from Witcher season 4, things like that. But I wanted to talk about James Gunn because I think that this is actually a pretty good story. So with that being said, let's go on ahead. Let's get on with the show. And hello, movie lovers. And like I said, I'm going to be talking about James Gunn, and also too, we're also going to be talking about Peter Safran. And here's what I like about this deal here with DC. I think that you need someone like James Gunn to be able to come in and take over because of the fact of what WB has done in the past. I think this is actually a great idea that, in fact, Safran actually has. So let me go ahead and talk about Safran though, because of the fact that everybody talks about James Gunn and things like that. I talked about him a lot in that one little short video I did, and, I think that, I really feel like that this is actually a smart move by DC. And let me tell you why. Okay, so number one, you have Zafran, who actually produced Belko Experiment and the Peacemaker TV series. As a matter of fact, my friend Roberto was the one who brought this to my attention. Not only that, but he's also done like Summer Camp, The Choice, The Conjuring 2, The Belko Experiment, like I mentioned, Mine, Crawl Space, Wolves at the Door, Annabelle Creation, The Worthy, The Crucifixion, and Flatliners, and of course, Aquaman, Shazam, and the list just goes on. And also too, let's also talk about what else that Safran did. He also produced Rocket Man, one of my favorite films back in the '90s. So he's got my full trust and faith in this whole entire deal. Where basically, with working with Gunn, you definitely need to be able to have someone that's worked with him before. I think the communication is going to be there to where basically Gunn doesn't basically anybody that goes over to Gunn, he okays it, and then he checks off with Peter Safran as well. So I think it's going to be a great back and forth between the both of them. And of course, what James Gunn has managed to do, like I said before, he's 2 for 2. He's made the Suicide Squad, and it was, to me, that was my favorite Suicide Squad movie. That was actually pretty good. It made me laugh. It had that cheesiness to it, over the top stuff over with it. So it landed for me as far as what the Suicide Squad is. Then, of course, you have Peter Safran, who is also a great producer as well. So 2 for 2 on that one. Of course, also Peacemaker. That's also another thing I want to talk about, was the fact that James Gunn has done a successful job with Peacemaker. I enjoyed Peacemaker for what it was, and it had that same kind of stylist kind of feel to it as the Suicide Squad movie. So basically, that level of humor worked for me. I think that having James Gunn in there doing that, and also too, don't forget he also done the very first 2 Guardians of the Galaxy movies, and he's also been an indie maker as well. Because look at the movie Slither. Slither was only a low budget film. And he made that into a successful film as well. Even though it might be a cult classic, not really sure on that. But either way it goes, he did a small budget film before actually going into the Disney Marvel brand, which I think is a smart move. You don't want to have someone that's just fresh out and not even done a small film first. So James Gunn did a small film first, and then he went into the Marvel brand. He made sure that all the dots was in place for that one, and Kevin Feige did a fantastic job at knowing what they wanted to do as far as the Guardians of the Galaxy stuff. So let me go ahead and read up a little bit about the Hollywood Reporter on what they say. So in the stunning return of events, filmmaker James Gunn and producer Peter Safran have been taped to lead DC's film, TV, and animation efforts as co-chairs and co-CEOs of DC Studios, a newly formed division at Warner Brothers that will replace DC Films. The unprecedented move, in which a top director will assume a top executive post, marks the end of the months-long search for Warner Brothers Discovery CEO David Zaslav to replace DC Films boss Walter Hamada, who departed the studio last week. That search had all of Hollywood guessing at playing the executive bingo for who would land one of the most coveted and challenging jobs in town. And then you also have this other little bit as well, where In recent weeks, Gunn and Safran were spotted at Warner Brothers lot, meeting with Warner Brothers Films co-chair Michael De Luca about future projects, and according to sources, the initial overture to Safran and Gunn came from De Luca over the summer, even as the studios was in shaky talks with producer Dan Lin to take the job. Gunn will focus on the creative side of things, while Safran will focus on the business and production side. Both are expected to continue to direct and produce projects respectively. They will report directly to Zaslav and work closely with Warner Brothers film bosses De Luca and Palma Addy. Sources say that deal runs 4 years and Gunn will be exclusive to DC. The goal is for them not to just to be producers, but to truly function as executives, even as Gunn will occasionally basically winds up doing his movies as well. So you have Gunn, who's going to direct his movies and also oversee stuff over at DC. So I think that's very interesting that he would still be directing films. So I like that. Unlike Marvel Studios, DC has multiple films set in separate creative universes. And according to sources, Joker filmmaker Todd Phillips' work on the upcoming sequel, which goes into production later this year, will not fall under Gunn and Safran's purview, and instead will be overseen by De Luca and Dabby. Matt Reeves, who worked with Homada, has a budding universe based on the Batman movie. It's unclear under whose feature it's going to be under, but for me, I think it would actually make sense that it would actually be probably under De Luca versus Gunn. Gunn's is a little bit more going to be more of the silly type of stuff and things like that, maybe the over the top stuff. So I wouldn't be surprised if De Luca or Adabi would be the one that would work with him. But that's just me and what I'm thinking. But then, of course, you also have everything else moving forward would be under Guns and Safran's. So I like the fact that we're still getting a separate universe from the DCEU, which is now just called the DC Universe. DC has among the most entertaining, powerful, and iconic characters in the world, and I'm thrilled to be the singular and completely talents of James and Peter, joining a world-class team and overseeing the creative direction of the storied DC Universe, said Zaslav in the statement. Their decades of experience in filmmaking, close ties to the creative community, and proven track record thrilling superhero fans around the globe make them uniquely qualified to develop a long-term strategy across film, TV, and animation, and take the iconic franchise to the next level in creative storytelling. Gunn is one of the most respected minds in the world of comic book filmmaking. He came up in this indie film space, like I said, and became an A-list director in 2014 with Marvel Studios, Guardians of the Galaxy, and its 2017 sequel. He jumped to DC in 2018 to develop the Suicide Squad, and rival Marvel fired him as director of Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3. The studio later reinstated him, and that project is due out on May 2023. His DC foray, the Suicide Squad, was critically adored and spawned the hit HBO Max spinoff Peacemaker, starring John Cena. Gunn is currently working on a second season. Safran came up as a manager where Gunn was among his clients and is fully enmeshed in the world of DC as producer of the $1 billion grossing Aquaman and its upcoming sequel, as well as the Suicide Squad, Peacemaker, and Shazam. In its sequel, his relationship with Warner Brothers back 10 years and includes the $2 billion Conjuring horror franchise. The Safran company recently re-upped its production deal with Warner Brothers. Gunn and Safran will work with top executives at Warner Brothers, including TV boss Channing Dunnigy, HBO, and HBO Max's Casey Ballois, U.S. Networks Group Chair-in-Chief Content Officer Kathleen Flinch, Consumer Products Chief PM Lifford, and Warner Brothers Executive Entertainment's David Haddad. These DC studios will share resources across the company. We're honored to be the stewards of these DC characters and loved since we were childhood, Gunn and Safran said in a statement. We look forward to collaborating with the most talented writers, directors, and actors in the world to create an integrated, multi-layered universe that still allows the individual expression of the arts involved. Our commitment to Superman, Batman, Wonder Woman, Aquaman, Harley Quinn, and the rest of the DC stable of characters, the only equivalent by our commitment to the wonder of human possibilities these characters represent. we're excited to investigate the theatrical experience around the world as we tell some of the biggest, most beautiful, and grandest stories ever told. So, like I said, I'm excited at the fact that we have James Gunn and also Peter Safran to be able to do this. I think it's actually fascinating that Gunn is even going to be the one who winds up directing DC movies, and then of course Safran's going to be also overseeing stuff too. So I think it's going to work on both sides. I think this is a great thing because they're both friends. They're going to have a great partnership. I think this is actually what DC needs. They need someone overlooking something like this. They need a James Gunn in this whole entire wheelhouse to be able to oversee all the DC properties and to give it a proper landing space than what we had in the past, which I always said this, Warner Brothers is very reactionary when it comes down to the DC properties. They only did what things were popular. And when basically when Zaslav was over there overseeing stuff and getting rid of certain things, some people were mad about that. Me, on the other hand, I'm like, well, that was under the old regime, and because that's under the old regime of of how people were running things, I can understand why he would want to get rid of that because they were just greenlighting stuff just for the sake of greenlighting stuff because they just needed a movie out there on the Warner Brothers brand versus it being the best thing for them for their brand. So I definitely like that. So now we're going to go over to this other little piece of news. And of course, everybody already knows that Henry Cavill, which is to me is one of the best Supermans that we actually have today. Don't get me wrong, I love Christopher Reeves. Christopher Reeves is a classic Superman. That's the one I grew up with. But when you're looking at the physique, when you're looking at Henry Cavill as Superman, he is the person that I would love to have for a Man of Steel 2, and I'm happy that we're finally getting a Man of Steel 2 now. And it's going to, of course, like I said, it's going to be under the direction of James Gunn, overseeing stuff, and also Peter Safran. But here's some other thing. In the words of Thanos, what did it all cost? Well, guess what? The Witcher has been renewed for a fourth season by Netflix. Through the hit fantasy series, will be missing one of the familiar faces is Henry Cavill. He will exit the production after the upcoming third season debuts with Liam Hemsworth set to take over the lead role of Geralt of Rivia. So that's a little bit of a sad news. It's a win for us in a sense because of the fact that we've been wanting Henry to come back as Superman, but at the cost of it, he has to leave The Witcher because I'm sure that they're giving him more money probably to play Superman versus being The Witcher. But if I could actually have both, I would like for him to be The Witcher. That's just me because I think that he does a fantastic job as The Witcher. But The Witcher has been renewed for the fourth season by Netflix. Through his fantasy series, will be missing one familiar, like I said. The streamer announced the renewal and casting news on Saturday afternoon, with both Hemsworth and Cavill also releasing statements. Reading onto the tone of both statements, the decision seemed to be an unacceptable passing of the torch. My journey as Gerald of Rivia has been filled with both monsters and adventures, and at last I will be laying down the medallion and my swords for season 4. Cavill said in a statement on Instagram. In my stead, the fantastic Mr. Liam Hemsworth will be taking up the mantle of the White Wolf. As with the greatest of literary characters, I pass the torch. I lost my place. But basically, he's just going to be passing the torch over to Liam, and Liam's actually happy at the fact that he's getting a chance to play Gerald. But, okay, so as with greatest of literary characters, I pass the torch with reference for the time spent embodying the Gerald and enthusiasm to see Liam's take on his most fascinating and narcissist of men. Liam, good sir, this character has such a wonderful depth to him. Enjoy your diving in and seeing what you can find. So it's going to be interesting how Liam plays this character. I'm hoping maybe they might give him a little bit more stuff to flesh out and things like that. Not saying that Henry didn't give him enough things to flesh out, but everybody has their own way of actually receiving the character and who he is. So it's going to be interesting how Liam actually portrays that character. But, all in all, I think that it might be an okay thing. I know most fans are disappointed in the fact that, we don't have Henry coming back, but I'm kind of open-minded into the fact that we are going to have Liam in this. So with that being said, that's going to be it for this little short movie news segment. I hope that everybody enjoyed this. Don't forget to smash that like button. Don't forget to comment below. Are you guys excited about James Gunn and Peter Safran overseeing stuff over at DC? Are you finally excited now that we have somebody at the forefront for that? Also, too, tell me what you guys think about Henry Cavill not coming back for season 4 of The Witcher. Tell me all that stuff in the comments below. And always, until next time, guys, bye-bye.